Yeah, so you,
Okay, Tejal, ready, Tejal?
Yes, I'm
Okay,
ready.
great. Okay,
You
so
you can
yeah,
see my screen, right?
yes, I can see your screen. Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, so welcome to
One sec.
the
I
PhD.
can't. Sorry. I can't see your screen.
Oh,
Is there? I thought I saw it. Okay. Sorry. I can see it. I can see it. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry.
good. Okay, so welcome to the PhD Defense Seminar of Tejal Agarwal. She's worked on modeling of bacterial chromosome organization, and she's worked with Apratim Chatterjee, my colleague Apratim Chatterjee at the department here. And so I want to specially thank Gautam Menon, Professor Gautam Menon of Ashoka University, for taking the time to examine the thesis and be present for the defense. Thank you, Gautam. And so, Tejal, the way it will go is you make about a 40-minute presentation, and then we can ask questions. Everyone is open, can ask questions during it, but typically at the end of it, the first questions are reserved for the examiner. So Gautam would ask those questions, and then we will open it up to the rest of the audience. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All the best.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good.
I may
So
switch off my video and my audio just to sort of conserve
Yeah,
bandwidth.
I'll also do that just to save.
I'll do. Yeah. So whenever we have to ask questions, we can unmute ourselves.
But we'll all be listening anyway.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool.
Okay, Tejal.
yeah. So the title of today's talk is bacterial chromosome organization using bead spring polymer models. So by looking at this title, the first thing comes to our mind is the word chromosome. So what is a chromosome? Chromosome is a long DNA polymer which is dressed with various proteins. And why we study the organization of the chromosome, this is because the chromosome of bacteria is approximately 1 millimeter in length if it is fully stressed. But it is packed inside the cell of micron size volume, which suggests that it is folded in the cell 1,000 times, like it is folded 1,000 times. So, but how this packaging of the chromosome is achieved is not clearly understood. And we do not expect the polymer to organize randomly, because DNA has to perform various functions like transcription and replication. So how this organization is achieved is one important question we want to ask. So it is known from our high school textbooks that the chromosome organization is not like a random polymer, but there is a hierarchy of the structures. So we all know the double helical structure of the DNA. So double helix DNA is made up of AT-GC, which and AT and GC are called base pair. These base pairs ATGC repeat itself to form a double helical structure of the DNA. The width of this double helical DNA is approximately 2 nanometer. Then this double helical DNA is wrapped around histone proteins to form a bead on a string like organization that is at the width of 11 nanometer. This 11 nanometer fiber further folds into higher order structures, which gives 30 nanometer organization, and this 30 nanometer organization further folds to give higher order structure. And in the metaphase of the cell cycle, we find that it is found like a X-shaped chromosome. But the how the DNA is organized above 30 nanometer fiber is not clearly understood. So we also study the organization of the DNA or chromosome above 30 nanometer length scale in our study. In contrast, the bacteria does not have histone proteins, but it has, such a small length organization is not achieved there. But bacteria has other proteins like HU, HNS, and other SMC complexes, which may help the chromosome to organize at higher length scales. Moreover, in human cell, there are 46 chromosomes, and these are packed inside the nucleus of the cell. So in this picture, we see that this is the human nucleosome, the cartoon picture of human nucleosome, and different color represents the different color represent different chromosome, and we see that from here we see that the different chromosome are not found in the mixed state, but all the polymers occupy a certain specific location inside the nucleus. So like chromosome number 3 is only found in this region, and it is not mixing up with the another chromosome, suppose number 8. This particular organization is experimentally found, and this particular organization is called chromosome territories. Even if we look the chromosome, if we zoom in this particular chromosome and look the organization of this particular chromosome, suppose 2, then it is found that it is also not like a random walk polymer. But this is evident from the Hi-C experimental map. So the Hi-C experimental contact map gives the probability of different segments to be found closer to each other with the with different probabilities. So here x-axis and y-axis represent different chromosome segments, and the resolution of Hi-C experiment is mega base pair. From here we see that there are the organization is not like random, and we find that certain segments are found closer to another certain segments with high probability. So the color here represents the probability. Darker the color, higher the probability of segments to be found close to each other. So suppose if you will see that this particular chromosome segment is coming close to this particular segment with high probability, and but this particular segment, which is approximately white, it is not at all coming close to this particular segment. So there is an organization which is achieved, which is found here. So bacteria does not have any nucleus like there is some noise. So in bacteria,
Other than Tejal, of course.
Could one mute if somebody is other than the speaker? There's some background noise. Could whoever, I mean, other members have joined, kindly mute. Thanks. Tejal, please.
yeah. So in bacteria, again, the bacteria does not have any cell nucleus, and the chromosome does not packed inside a nucleus, but it is just packed inside the cylindrical cell wall. And also bacteria only have typically 1 or 2 chromosome, unlike higher organisms like human cell, which has 46 chromosomes. So if we see the organization of single chromosome of bacteria, it is also not like a random walk polymer. So this is the Hi-C contact map, like as I showed before, but this is for the bacteria C. crescentus. So the Hi-C, here x-axis and y-axis represent different chromosome segments, and the color shows the probability of these to be in close contact with each other. So from here we see that 3000 and 1000 monomer have higher probability to be in contact with each other compared to 3000 or 2000. So this suggests that there is some level of organization even in the bacterial cells. So the resolution here is approximately 10 kilobase pairs. So the question arises, how is this chromosome organization is achieved? So for that, we hypothesize that if there are, if we cross-link very certain specific segments along the polymer, that can lead to the organization of the polymer, and these specific positions or binds represent the DNA binding protein. So if we have a ring polymer, then it can take any conformation. So it can, this monomer bead can go to this closer to this monomer bead, and this monomer bead can go closer to this monomer bead, and we do not expect this normal polymer to organize into a particular structure. But suppose if if the DNA binding protein bind these two segments together, so suppose it is the bind, then we see that there is eight shape like structure, and because of this binding, the monomers which are closer to this binding are also have the high probability to come closer. So this is what we do, like we just add some cross link, or add we add some cross links and see how the organization is achieved. Uh, so the question is, how many crosslinks should we choose, and how to choose this the position of these crosslinks. So to choose the position of these crosslinks, we take the help of the Hi-C contact map. So here, if you see in Hi-C contact map, certain segments have high probability. So we can cross-link these particular monomers. So suppose 3000 and 1000 coming with higher probability, we just take these two monomers in our bead spring polymer and cross-link them. And depending on the cutoff threshold cutoff we set in the Hi-C contact map, we can have different number of crosslink. So suppose we set lower cutoff, then we'll have more number of crosslink, and if we have a higher cutoff, then we'll have less number of crosslink. So we want to check how many minimum number of crosslinks are required for the polymer to organize into a particular structure. So next we ask if there is something special about these crosslinks, or this is like a randomly, so that's why we compare the organization of biological crosslink with the random crosslink set, and if these are and we check the organization if it is similar or not. But what we found is the nature of the organization in the random crosslink set is different from the biological set. And also this DNA or chromosome is not isolated in the cell, but it is surrounded by many various proteins and enzymes, and also it is packed inside the cell wall. So these things also affect the organization of the chromosome. At the end, we also ask, can we predict the 3D organization of the DNA? So this is the outline of the talk of my talk. So firstly, I'll just study or talk about the chromosome organization with crosslinks, which I choose from the Hi-C contact map, and then compare it with the randomly chosen crosslink set. Next, I will study the role of chain crossing and the molecular crowders. So these terms I will explain later as I go along. And at the end, I combine all the effects and the cylindrical cell confinement and see how the organization is changed. So in physics, we model the chromosome as a random walk in 3D, where the monomers are connected with the springs, and each monomer represents several base pairs of DNA. And here we also neglect the atomic details in the co-grain picture of the polymer. So for our system, we we take neighboring beads of the polymer and give an harmonic interaction between them. So, and where the kappa is the strength of the spring, and bond length B is equals to 1, which set the unit of length in our simulation. Since these two beads cannot overlap, non-neighboring beads cannot overlap each other. So in the actual polymer, the bead A and another bead capital A cannot come over each other. So that and there is a energy cost for that. So we model that by WCA potential, which is the repulsive part of the Lennard-Jones potential. The parameters of the Lennard-Jones has been set to be 0, sigma is equals to 0.2 B, and epsilon is equals to 1 by 1 kBT. The epsilon is the interaction strength of the Lennard-Jones potential. So the two bacterial DNA are E. coli and C. crescentus. We study these two DNAs. Both have 4 million of base pair approximately, which we model as 4642 monomers and 4017 monomers. So in our coarse-grained picture, one monomer represents 1,000 of base pair, which is approximately 6 persistent length. So persistence length is the measure of the flexibility of the chain. So if we are 6 persistent length, then we can consider the polymer to be fully flexible. The crosslinks which we choose from either from the contact map of Hi-C contact map of the bacterial DNA, or if we choose the we choose it randomly, those are also interact by the harmonic potential of this form, and kappa is taken to be 200 kBT, similar to the neighboring beads. And both the DNA polymer are a ring polymer. So the first question arises, how can we say that a polymer is structured or organized? So for that, we came up with a protocol. So we have two biological crosslink corresponding to the bacteria E. coli and C. crescentus. We take these crosslinks from the Hi-C contact map. In each case, we start with 9 independent initial condition, and after the Monte Carlo, we generate different conformation using Monte Carlo simulation. And if after all the 9 independent condition, the polymer is organized in the same way, then we can say that the biological crosslinks are leading particular structure. Crosslinks are leading to the particular structure of the polymer, because we haven't had added any other effect other than the crosslink. Next, we generate 10 different random sets. In each random set, the polymer which we crosslink are chosen, the monomers which we crosslink are chosen randomly. And again, we start with 9 independent initial conditions and see if after 9 independent condition, if we are getting the same organization or not. And then we compare this organization with the biological case and see if the organization in the biological and random case is different or not. So this is one of the movie from our simulation. We generate different conformation of the polymer using Monte Carlo simulation. So from here, the color represents different segments of the polymer. And
I
from
can't
here,
see the movie, by the way.
oh,
Yeah, neither can I.
I don't know how to.
Do you have the movie in a separate as a MP4 or whatever file? Then you can just.
Okay.
Or if it's not important, go ahead and you can show that right at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in this in that movie, the polymer was taking different configurations. So the polymer is not like a fixed structure, but it can explore different configurations. So the question is, how can we determine the structure of a polymer which is taking different conformation and moving? So for that, we came up with the various statistical quantities. So the first quantity we calculate is the radius of gyration. So the radius of gyration is the measure of the extent of the polymer from the center of mass. So suppose this is our cross-linked polymer. We calculate the center of mass of this polymer and then take the radius of gyration gives the extent of that the polymer from the center of mass. Uh, Next, we divide the polymer into 80 segments, where each segment represents 58 monomer, and we ask the question if that particular segment is always found in the inner region, middle region, or outer region. So these inner region, outer region, and middle region we define from the value of Rg. So suppose if the value of Rg is approximately 9 simulation unit, then the monomers which are coming outside that Rg value, we say that those are always found in the outer region. And if it is like half of the value, that if we take half of the Rg value, and if the monomers are always coming inside that, then we say that it is always coming in the inner region. So this is important because we do not expect a random polymer to get localized in a particular space. So if the random polymer can take different conformations, and it is not highly possible that one particular segment is always localized in the outer region or middle region or inner region. So if we get a proper localization of the particular segment, then we can say that the crosslinks are helping the polymer to get organized into a particular structure. Next, we also can calculate other correlation and correlation. Will explain later. So I said before, depending on the cutoff distance, cutoff probability we set stack map, we can have different number of crosslink. So if we set higher probability, then we have less number of crosslink. So in one case we have 20, and in another case we have 80 crosslink. And next we generate number of random crosslink and compare the result comparing the two. So here in this graph, the x-axis runs from different independent initial condition. So we took 9 conditions. So this x-axis represent 1 to 9 different independent conditions, and the y-axis represent the value of Rg. So as we increase the number of crosslink from BC1 set to 2, we see that the polymer collapses and the value of Rg is from 11 to 9. But for the and here in this graph, the x-axis represent different random CL sets, and each value here represent the average value taken over 9 initial condition, and the error bar shows the standard deviation independent condition. So as we increase the value from RC1 to RC2 for set, we see that the value of Rg decreases from 11 to 6. And while in the biological case, it was decreasing from 9. So here we see that with the same number of crosslink, the decrease in the value of Rg is more for crosslinks, but it is less for biological crosslink. So this data correspond to each. We have also done the similar quantification for another bacterial centers, but I'll majorly show the results of E. coli. But the quantitatively both have the same conclusion.
Teja, can I quickly ask a question?
So next, yes.
In the previous graph, this is all for the confined polymer, no?
No, it is not confined.
This is not confined so far. Okay, so in the confined polymer, the limit to Rg is set by the size of the bacterium.
That will be set by the size of the, yes.
So what is the ratio of the unconfined Rg and the sort of radius of the bacterium, typically?
Okay, so in the we do not calculate the Rg because it is not a spherical confinement, but it is like a cylindrical confinement. So
Okay.
Rg won't be a relevant quantity.
Okay.
There we'll have two components of Rg. One is along the axis of the cylinder, another is along the radial axis of the cylinder. So we cannot but I'll show later that we can estimate the spread of using the number density of monomers across the and in the radial axis of the cylinder.
Okay, sort of related question. In the same units in which you calculate Rg, what is the size of the long, let's say the long dimension of the bacterium, of one of the bacteria that you consider?
The length of the bacterial cell.
In this unit, in the Rg unit?
Oh, so in the Rg unit.
I'll tell you my question is just to understand how much bigger than the confined size is your Rg. That's essentially the only question. Is it twice as big? Is it 10 times as big, or is it comparable?
I think we have explicit data.
No, it is. Yeah. So I'll
so when you
come to
need
that.
we can just measure that, and so there is explicit data just to answer this, and maybe she doesn't remember, but we can just look it up when we come to it.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. So next we calculate the how different segments are found in the outer region. So the probability of different segments to be found in the outer region is defined as the distance greater than 9a, which is the 9a is the Rg for this E. coli sat. So from here, the x-axis here represent different segments, and the y-axis represent the probability of those segments to be found in the outer region. So from here we see that some particular segments are this 20 are found in the outer region with very high probability, which is close to 1. But some segments are never found in the outer region. So those are either found in the middle region or outer region. But interestingly, what we observe is we have the data of most transcriptionally active genes for E. coli polymer. And there we find that the segments of the segments which are on the outer region have consist of 37 transcriptionally active genes. So which means that this is also biologically relevant, because if the genes which are transcriptionally active are always found on the outer region, it is very easy for the transcription factors to access them. And so this trend is there for E. coli, and this trend is also found experimentally for E. coli and B. setilis, but and the bacteria C. crescentus does not show this kind of trend. So next quantity we calculate is the positional correlation of the segments. So the positional correlation shows the probability for two segments to be within a cutoff distance R. this cutoff distance again we take from the help of RG. So this cutoff distance for this I have set to be 5 simulation unit, and as we can also change that. This is like a parameter for our simulation, and so when we have 27 crosslinks, uh, okay, so when we have 27 crosslinks, we found this positional correlation, and when we have 80 crosslinks, we found this. So here x-axis and y-axis represent different segment index, and the color shows the probability of two segments to be found within a cutoff distance of R. When we have only 27 crosslinks, we see that the correlation, there are less correlations. Only few segments are coming close to each other. But as we increase the crosslink from 27 to 80, we see that these patch-like rectangular patterns appear, and it shows non-trivial organization. Here, most of the points which are appearing, those are because of we have crosslinked the certain segment, but here uh, extra points are also appearing which we did not crosslink. So now we compare the three independent condition, the positional correlation across three independent condition. So this data looks statistically similar, but we have also calculated the Pearson correlation, which compares the two color maps, and we see that and we get very high value of Pearson correlation. The value 1 of Pearson correlation says that the two random variables are highly correlated with each other. So here we can say that these three color maps are statistically similar. Next, we compare our biological case with the random case. So this is the E. coli data for 80 with 80 crosslinks, and this is with 80 crosslinks which are chosen randomly. So here, if you compare the biological positional correlation map with the random one, we see that in the random case, many segments are coming closer to many other segments. But in biological case, some particular segments are found closer to another particular segment. So suppose 40 is always found closer to this particular 0 or 1 to 20 segment, but it is the 70 is not at all found closer to 1. But in biological case, we found that each segment is coming closer to each another segment.
Can I just quickly ask a question? What is the difference between RG in the top and the bottom in these two examples, roughly?
RG, okay, so that is here in the data, right? RG is like 7 here, and it is 9 here. In the biological case, it is 9. In this case, it is 9. In this case, it is 9, and in this case, it is 7.
Okay, fine. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So we found that the nature of organization is different. So we quantify this difference in the color maps with the quantity F, which is the number of pixels greater than 0.05 divided by the total number of segments. So for 10 different random crosslink set, we find high value of the quantity F. But for one set of biological crosslink, it is relatively less. So to check why there is a difference between between the organization in the biological and randomly chosen crosslink, we plot different crosslinks in 3D space, and we see that the crosslinks are clustered in space for biological data, but it is distributed uniformly for the random case. And for all the different random crosslink case, we found this kind of uniform distribution. So we conclude from here that the CLs taken from the Hi-C contact map are at specific positions, which is helping the polymer to get a non-trivial
Sorry,
organelle.
can you just explain this again? What is done here?
Okay, so we only plot the crosslinks, in the 3D space.
So what is the X, Y, and Z axis? That's the index I along the chain.
So this is one from the one of the snapshots. So from one of the configuration, we remove the polymer and only plot the crosslinks.
Only plot the crosslinks. Okay.
Crosslink, yes. So from there we find that it is like clustered in a space, but for the randomly polymer crosslink polymer, we found that the crosslinks are distributed in a space.
Yeah. No, the only sort of comment is that this sometimes can depend upon which orientation you view it at. So you use the bottom
No,
picture
I
at
have,
different orientation, it might.
okay. Yeah, so I have checked it from different orientation as well, but yeah,
Sure.
this is
Okay, go on.
Next, we compare the experimental and simulation color maps or simulation data to validate our model. So for that, we coarse-grained the experimental contact map to 80 cross 80 matrix. Actually, it is 4000 cross 4000 matrix, but we coarse-grained it to 80 cross 80 to compare with our simulation. Here in this experimental contact map, we only plot the high probability points, and also from the simulation color map, we only plot the high probability points. And we see that the color these two matches with each other, like we are getting these points, also these points, but we see that there is a there is another diagonal, and we are not seeing that diagonal in our simulation for secret centers. If we just check for E. coli,
Can you
then
just explain what that means? I mean, why is it not, if this is a circular chromosome,
yes.
why is it not always two diagonals? Sorry,
Why?
that's a dumb question, but just can you explain why?
Yeah, so like one diagonal is trivial one. So if because it is the polymer is connected, so suppose 1, 2 and 3, the polymer is like one monomer is connected with second one is connected with
Yes,
third one,
I agree.
right? So this particular diagonal represents that the monomers which are coming closer because of the virtue of being connected, they are coming closer as well in the 3D space.
Mm-hmm.
But another diagonal, this another diagonal shows a non-linear, non-trivial organization. So if it is a ring, suppose, so the first monomer is connected with the last monomer. But if we arrange the monomer, arrange the polymer linearly, so like, can I draw?
I guess my question is, what's the distinction between connecting 1 and 79 and 1 and 2?
Yes, that's what I want to explain. So I have some schematic figure later in the talk, and then I'll come to that.
Okay, we can wait for that then. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. From here we see that for E. coli, these points are matching with each other, the simulation and experimental contact map. But for C. crescentus, the off-diagonal points are matching, but the diagonal, we do not get the diagonal point. So there is something missing in our model which need to be added to get another diagonal. So this is the conclusion of this work. So we have few crosslinks, approximately 3% of the monomers, which organize the polymer into a particular structure. We see that the nature of organization is different for polymer with bio and random crosslinks. The predicted positional correlation match with experimental contact map for E. coli, but we do not get another diagonal points for C. crescentus. So there is something missing and we need to add something in our model. So this study has resulted in 2 publications, and one I just worked for E. coli, and another one we have worked for C. crescentus bacteria. Before going before going before talking about the another diagonal, we just study the role of chain crossing and the molecular crowders. So in the bacterial cell, there are many proteins and enzymes which does various things, and it is in the bacterial cell is not the bacterial chromosome is not isolated, but it is found inside but it is surrounded by many Crowder molecules. That may affect the organization of the polymer. So in this work we are going to talk about that. So in bacteria, there is an enzyme called topoisomerase, which allows the chains to cross each other. That enzyme cuts the chain, allow the chain to cross, and then rejoins the chain. So we model it by changing the bead diameter. So suppose if we have a smaller bead diameter than the bond length, then the chain can cross. But if we have a larger diameter, like greater than 0.5 bond length, then the chain cannot cross each other. So, but modeling the chain crossing by this is relevant or not. So for that, because we are just by changing the bead diameter, we are just changing the excluded volume. But it is known that from this study, it is known that for any value of a non-zero bead diameter, the scaling of the Rg does not change, and it remains. Rg goes as n raised to the power 0.6, where n is the number of monomers in the chain. We think so that is why we model the chain crossing by changing the bead diameter. So we calculate the positional correlation corresponding to the C. crescentus, and here the x-axis and y-axis represents different segment index, and and the color shows the probability of different segments to be found in contact with each other. The value sigma is equals to, we change the diameter of the bead from value 0.2a to 0.7a. In the case of 0.2a, the chain crossing is allowed, but in the case of sigma is equals to 0.7a, the chain crossing is not allowed. So if we see the positional correlation in these two cases, then we see that when sigma is equals to 0.2, we are getting rectangular patches, but here the rectangular patches disappears and only the points with very bright pixels are present. While calculating the positional correlation, we do not take a fixed value of RC, because as we increase the diameter diameter, the RG value also increases because the excluded volume increases and the polymer swells. So we set the RC value such that RC by RG remain constant. Then we again compare across 9 independent runs, and if after 9 independent runs the polymer is leading to the same structure, then we can say that this chain crossing is helping the polymer to get organized. So for that, we calculate the Pearson correlation among 9 independent conditions. So we have the Pearson correlation is giving the correlation between two color maps. We have 9 independent initial conditions, thus we have 9 independent color maps. So that will lead to 9 C2 values of Pearson correlation. So we take the average of that value and plotted it here. And we changed on the x-axis, we changed the bead diameter from 0.2 to 0.7. So as we see that as the chain crossing is disallowed, like as we increase the bead diameter, the runs from independent initial conditions are giving different like less value of PC, like they are looking different from each other. So for very large value of bead diameter 0.7, we see the Pearson correlation across different initial conditions decreases to a value 0.5. So we from here we say is that this chain crossing is helping the polymer to get organized into a particular structure. So next we study the effect of molecular crowders. So if we have a polymer in a cylinder, then it can take any possible configuration and conformation, but the polymer is not isolated, but it is surrounded by various proteins and other molecules. So in this study and previous studies, it is shown that when there is a polymer and other monomers inside the cell, then there is a phase separation of polymer and crowder. In one phase we get polymer rich part, and in other phase we get crowder rich part. So so we take this result from that study, and rather than modeling the explicit crowders in our simulation, we just give an effective weak attraction between the monomers. So this effective weak monomer is but it is very hard to calculate the value of effective bead attraction, because we don't know how much attraction should be there in the between the monomers, because the crowders are of different sizes. They also have charges, and they are of dissimilar sizes. So for that, we do not want the polymer so we do not want to give a very high attraction strength between the monomers, because in that case the polymer is the monomer density in the core of the polymer globule will be very high, and the monomers cannot take different configuration states. So we restrict ourselves to the values of epsilon less than kBt, and thus we choose the value of epsilon to be 0.1, 0.2 to 0.5, where epsilon is the attraction strength between the monomers. So this is the data for the RG. As we increase the attraction strength between the monomers, the value of RG decreases. So that means the polymer is becoming more compact. Next, we calculate the positional correlation in the case of epsilon equals to 0.3 kBt and epsilon is equals to 0.5 kBt. From here, we see that this x-axis and y-axis again represent different segments, and the positional correlation represents, which is represented by the color, shows the probability of two segments to be within a cutoff distance RC. We take the value of cutoff distance RC such that RC by RG is nearly constant. So for 0.3 kBt, we see that these rectangular patches are intact, and some particular segments are found closer to another particular segment. But for high value of attraction strength, we see that all the monomers are coming closer to all the other monomers with very high probability. So this is, we do not want this case, because if every monomer is coming close to each other, then it is not an organization. So we again start from a 9 independent initial condition and check if all the 9 independent conditions are leading to the same structure of the polymer or not. So for this we quantify different color maps by the Pearson correlation. The Pearson correlation gives the similarity between different contact maps, which is giving the similarity between the organization of across different independent conditions. So if we see from here that for low values of attraction strength, which is up to 0.3, we are getting high value of Pearson correlation, which is approximately 0.9. But for high value of attraction strength, which is 0.5, we see that the Pearson correlation suddenly drops, and the structure polymer across independent condition does not match with each other. But we see from here that the best value of Pearson correlation is approximately 0.9, which we get for epsilon is equals to 0.3. So we take this attraction strengths for our further studies. So now we know the value of parameter, the bead diameter, the attraction strengths. So now, and we know how many crosslinks are required. So we add the effect of cylindrical cell confinement. So for that, we put the our crosslink polymer in a cylindrical confinement. But for bacteria C. crescentus, it is known that the first monomer is always tethered by some protein to the pole of the cylinder. We choose the radius of the cylinder using suitable biological information, which I'm not going to talk, but if somebody is interested, I can talk about that. And we set the aspect ratio of the cylinder to be 7:1. So there was a question regarding the another diagonal present in the experimental contact map. So from here we can see that. So suppose this is the polymer. This is a ring polymer. Then this particular first monomer is connected with the last monomer. So 1 and 4000 is present here. But if you will see that 1 is coming closer to the 4000, and if the polymer is organized like this, the the ring polymer is organized like this, then we see that 2 is also connected with 3999, and the third one is connected with not connected, but it come closer to 3998. So the another diagonal in the contact mat represents that the polymer, the ring polymer is the two arms of the ring polymer is linearly aligned with each other. So in this case also we are starting with the 12 independent initial conditions, and check how the organization is after.
I will just interrupt. By the way, Gautam, you were asking about the second diagonal.
Yeah.
So did Tejal satisfactory? So you were trying to Tejal, you were trying to give an answer about that, right? So is that satisfactory? So, or you want to ask more questions or clarify anything?
I can ask. I can just go on from here. I can take it up later.
Okay. Okay.
Again, start from 12 independent initial conditions and check how the organization is achieved. So for this case, so since we have added an additional constraints in the system, that is the confinement of the polymer. So we think or we thought that we can get the organization with less number of crosslinks. So we again studied we again studied the organization of the polymer with the different number of crosslinks in the presence of confinement. If we take if we just tether the first end to the cylindrical wall of the ring polymer and do not take any crosslink, that is the crosslink number, the crosslink, there are 0 crosslink, then we see that the monomer density along the length of the cell is uniformly distributed. So I'm so sorry for that. The x-axis and y-axis represent the x-axis represent the different monomers along the length of the cylinder, and y-axis represent the number density along the length of the cylinder. So from here we see that for 0 crosslink, the monomer density is uniformly distributed. But as we introduce the crosslink in our confined system, then this leads to the compaction of the polymer along the length. But if we see the short axis distribution of monomer density, we see that increasing the crosslinks does not change the distribution of monomers along the short axis. So this suggests that the crosslinks are helping the polymer to get contracted in the linear direction, length direction, a longitudinal direction of the cylinder, but it is not helping the polymer to get compacted in the radial direction.
Sorry, one question. These are different x-axes, no? One is a length, one is an index.
One is the length, and this is no, sorry, I don't get your question.
The x-axis in the first case and the x-axis in the second case. What is the difference between them?
Okay, this is the short axis. This is the short axis of the cylinder, which is the radial axis.
Okay.
And one is the distribution along the longitudinal axis of the cylinder. This one is the further length.
So is the unit the same on the 2 x-axes?
No. The unit is that is in the simulation unit. That is like the bond length.
So maybe you can go to the previous. Yeah.
This is the length of the cylinder, and this is So that 100 is the length of the cylinder, and 7 is the radius of the cylinder.
Is that the right biological 7 to 100 is the right biological aspect ratio?
7 to 1. Okay. So 7 to 1 is not exactly.
7 to 100. Actually, 7 to 100, I thought, no?
Oh, that is diameter is 14, and that will give the aspect ratio to be 7.1, 7:1.
Okay.
So the length is approximately 108, and the diameter is approximately 14, which is approximately 7:1.
Okay. Now I was just confused by the unit on the next figure. That's I think not very clear to me, at least, between the two figures.
Wait. See that. Here Gautam had other questions as well. See, Gautam also asked this 1:7 ratio, aspect ratio that we have taken in for our simulations. Is that also the aspect ratio for Secrecentus bacteria?
Yeah.
No, it is not.
No.
It's 1:5.
Yeah.
We had something more to comment on it. So, sorry, just go ahead. And the next figure also gives the answer to Gautam's question about what is the spread along the longitudinal axis when there is no confinement. So here with this figure, you can answer a lot of questions which Gautam had. I'll mute my.
Yeah, so we take the aspect ratio to be 7:1, which is higher than the actual aspect ratio. But in the presence of crosslink, that the length is the polymer is collapsed in in this particular region. It is not spreading throughout the, compacted in the smaller region along the length of the, so that will so this is approximately 20 to 80 like, and from here we can see that it is 14, so this is like 60, which is approximately 5:1, the compacted in 5:1. So does that answer your question?
Not completely, but go ahead. Go ahead and we can think about coming back to this.
Okay.
I guess the question in B, why didn't you plot it as a function of R? Why did you use a different
sorry?
why did you use a different scheme of plotting between B and A? The R and the L.
B and A.
The R and the L. I can understand that you want to look at how it's distributed along the short axis and the long axis. But it's a bit difficult from here to figure out what is the point that is being made. That's the only question that I have.
Okay, so I want to say that different CLs, as we increase the number of CLs, the monomer density along the length of the cylinder. So it is, so suppose this is a polymer, and if we do not have any crosslinks, so so this is like polymer, here there are many crosslinks. So suppose if the polymer is not crosslinked, then it will spread the length of the cylinder. Okay, so that is shown here. The length of the monomer distribution along the length of the cylinder is uniform, but as we increase, you will see that the most of the monomers are compacted here, and this rest of the part of the cylinder is empty. So that is what we are getting here as well, right? So there is a peak of monomers here in the middle of the cell, and on the sides the cell is empty.
Okay. What about the second figure?
The second figure.
So tell how you have calculated this NPerp versus R.
Okay.
I think that will.
Yeah. So the second figure says the distribution of monomers along this axis. So as we increase the monomers crosslink, so suppose this the crosslink, the monomer, there are no crosslink, then the polymer is spread like this, right? But and the monomers can take different conformations here and here. So the monomer, if we calculate the monomer density along this axis, then we see that at the near the axis of the cell, the monomer density is high, and as we go along towards the side of the cylinder, then the monomer density decreases because this is the radius of the cylinder, right?
So you're computing the number of monomers within a ring at a particular R, averaged over the length?
Yes, averaged over the length. That's
concentric cylinders.
In concentric.
Yeah, so it is average over the length. Correct.
Okay, but here as you sort of increase the cross-linking, there's a large region which is not occupied by monomer at all.
Yes,
is that
so along the length.
Along the length.
Yes.
Along the length, but that doesn't make a difference to this particular calculation. Okay, all right, fine.
So from here we can see that the actual aspect ratio we choose is a 7:1, but the polymer compactifies itself into the structure of 5:1, because the most of the polymer is found in the like middle of the cell, which is approximately like 5:1 cylinder.
And also, I think Colobacter crescentus, the ratio of that cell is 5:1, or is it for E. coli? I don't remember.
Maybe that's 2 to 1. 2 to 1, more like, no? E. coli?
No, that will also depend on. So the average is approximately 4:1, 4:1, yes, for E. coli.
4 to 1, okay.
So next we calculate the positional correlations again. So for if the polymer is not if we do not incorporate any crosslink, then we see that we are not getting any off diagonal points, but we are just getting two diagonals. Which means that the polymer is linearly organized like this along the length of the cylinder. Uh, but if we introduce the crosslink 60 crosslink in the system, then we also start getting the off diagonal terms in the positional correlation. We also calculate how the 12 independent conditions are independent positional correlations are matching with the Pearson correlation of 0.7 with each other in this case. So from here we see that the cylindrical confinement where the first monomer is tethered to the cylindrical wall is giving rise to the another diagonal, which we were not getting in the previous case where we do not have cylindrical confinement and no tethering of cylinder wall. But in the C. crescentus case, initially we were getting these off diagonal points. So next we again compare our results with the experimental contact map. So this is the experimental contact map, and this map is from the simulation. So from here we see that it is very difficult to match these ones. So for the easiness, I have only plotted the off diagonal points from this map here, and only the diagonal points from this map here. So from here we see that all the off diagonal points which are present in this map is also present here. And we also get more number of off diagonal points which were not the case in the absence of crosslink. So we think that the cylindrical crosslink is helping the polymer to organize linearly because of the geometry of cylindrical confinement. So this is the conclusion. We study the organization of the polymer with different number of crossing, but we find that few crossing, approximately 2%, are required in the presence of cylindrical confinement. And plus we also added the effect of Crowder, which we think is helping the polymer to get organized into one particular structure. Uh, the required number of crosslinks significantly decrease in the presence of cylindrical confinement, because without cylindrical confinement, approximately 60 monomer crosslinks were required for the polymer structure, but in the presence of confinement, only 33 crosslinks are required. From the data we generate the positional correlation, the probability of segments to be found in the inner, middle or outer region. We obtain the 3D prediction of local position of segments which can be calculated in the near future. So this is the list of publications which resulted from this work. I have also done some additional work on where I did the experiments to study the organization of E. coli chromosome during different growth conditions. So in different growth conditions, there is the organization, the polymer, the E. coli polymer, the E. coli chromosome goes through the multi-fork replication, which I'm not going into the details. So it is also important to study the organization when the multi-fork replication happens. So these experiments were done in the lab of Professor Subjun Jun at University of California, where I went through the funding support from Indo-US System Fellowship by IUSSTF and DST. So these are the future goals. So in our simulation, we do not incorporate the effect of ATP-driven active processes, and we take the crosslinks to be permanently fixed, which is not the case in the actual biological system. Because in actual biological system, the binding proteins can sometimes attach to the monomer polymer, and sometimes they can just come out. So we haven't incorporated that effect. We haven't incorporated the effect of hydrodynamic interaction because of the cytoplasmic liquid in the cell. And another important project can be determining the distribution of CS along the DNA contour for bacterial chromosomes. So we find that the position of these crosslinks along the polymer is not random, but but it is an interesting question to ask if there is a particular distribution or of those positions. So that can be done in future when we'll have the access to more bacterial chromosome Hi-C maps. And the chromosome organization during different stages of the cell cycle and different growth condition of the cell cycle is another important question. So with this, I want to acknowledge my thesis supervisor, Professor Apratim, who was always who helped me a lot and motivated me throughout my PhD work. I also want to acknowledge my bio collaborators, Farad sir and Manjunath sir, who introduced this problem to us, and Farad sir analyzed the raw Hi-C experimental data and gave the contact map to us. I also acknowledge the RAC members, Ranjit sir and Vijay sir, who gave me some suggestions throughout the RAC meetings. And I want to acknowledge my US host for teaching me all the experiments and giving me an opportunity to work in his lab. I want to thank all the past and present group members of our group, and all the members in Jun Lab who taught me how to do experiments, because when I went there, I didn't know how to do any experiments. So that was those were very nice, and told me how to do experiments. And all the academic staff of ICER Pune, my family and my friends, who were always a constant support and motivated me a lot. Without them, I wouldn't have been able to finish my PhD. So, and lastly, I would like to acknowledge the funding support from ICER Pune, and DST and IUSSTF. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Tejal.
Yeah.
Thanks for your presentation. I'd like to request Gautam to have his questions, and then we can ask others.
Thank you, Teja. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I had sort of some minor questions. One is a sort of mildly technical question. You said that you'd like to look at hydrodynamic interactions and what they did. Do you think that would make a difference to the sort of calculations that you're doing?
Sorry, can you just repeat?
You said right at the end that one future direction would be looking at hydrodynamic interactions. And, do you think that would make a difference to anything that you did so far?
Yes, so because there is a lot of pressure inside the bacterial cell, so it may help the polymer to get compacted more. So if we see the so if we just remove the bacterial and slice the bacteria, then we see that the chromosome like extends 10 times. The chromosome extends 10 times. So I think that introducing the hydrodynamic interaction will further help the polymers to get like contracted more.
I mean, you could argue that I agree that the inside pressure is larger than the outside pressure. That is certainly true. But by Pascal's law, the pressure is the same at every point. So it will change your time scales a little bit and your mapping to the experiments. But for the things that you've calculated, it should make no difference unless you're looking at something dynamic.
Yes, unless it's a dynamical thing. I mean, you're looking at a Monte Carlo, which is
Yes, but the actual system,
equilibrium.
yeah, so but the actual system, biological system is not like equilibrium system, right? So there it might affect the incorporating the hydrodynamic effect.
Yeah, but then you would have to sort of put in active forces, activity.
Yeah,
or
that's
something.
what.
So if you have to put both of those two things, then
Yes.
then that might make
Yes, yes.
at least possibly some difference. It's not clear how much is difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me just sort of try to see what all I asked you. And, yeah, one question I had was that this effective interaction that is mediated by all the Crowders, which you took to be about 0.3 to 0.5. But you did that by a comparison of sort of contact
different
maps, I
initial
guess, right?
conditions.
Yeah,
Yes.
and sort of saw what looked most like the experimental data. It would have been nice to have had some estimate of where that number came from, even some sort of static estimate of what would be the, is it expected to be 0.01 kBT, 0.1 kBT, 10 kBT, 100 kBT? So, I mean, one way to do it is exactly as you did. Just sort of, let's compare it to data and say it cannot be much larger than this because that messes everything up.
Yeah.
But still, it would have been nice to see some sort of intuition for what that was. So, do you have any of that now? Is that something that you've thought about?
So yeah, we can like estimate that so like, but at the large scale, the landscapes we are studying, it is very hard at that point. But if you will just consider the DNA double helix structure at that particular point, there are the effects due to the charge and all. The DNA is also charged polymer, and there are proteins which are highly charged as well. So at that length scales, we can estimate the like interaction by electrostatic potentials between those two. But at this length scale of our
But
study,
the electrostatic potential would always be repulsive. Unless that sort of
no.
complicated other effect.
So the DNA is negatively charged, but the proteins are positively charged. So that will be like attractive potential as well.
So then you say they would bridge two parts of the DNA by having some sort of positive part in between. Yeah, okay, I guess that is the valid approach. Then I'd asked you about plectonines, and as I said that I didn't think your calculation incorporated plectonines. And why were you talking about them in the first place?
Oh, okay. So the plectoniums we use is to determine the radius of the cylinder. More details model of the polymer considers that there is the bottle brush like of structure of the polymer. So there is a central backbone, and there are loops which are emanating from these central backbone. So these loopy patterns, the plectoniums, are formed because of the DNA supercoiling. The average length of the plectoniums is found to be 10 to 15 kilobase pairs. So this particular length is 10 to 15 kilobase pair, which is like 10 to 15 units in our simulation units. But if you will see that this plectonium loops extend approximately seven along the radius. The length of the maximum length of the plectonium loop along the radial axis is approximately 7. So that is how we set the radius of the cylinder. So even we haven't incorporated the effect of plectoniums explicitly, but we choose we use the help of plectoniums to decide the radius of our confinement of the cylinder.
But that is the cylinder confinement is given to you by the biological fact of what is the shape of the cell, no? Shape and dimension of the cell.
That is true, but we know the aspect ratio, but we do not know like what is the radius or what is the length.
Okay.
Yeah, so we use this plectonium like length scale. We use this plectonium length scales to set the like radius of our cylinder.
Okay.
And from there we choose the length actually, because we don't know what size of. I mean, you could. I mean, explain it a bit better maybe. So, because we don't know how much length scale your whatever
What
1,000.
base pair,
Yeah. So,
yeah, so we do not know actually like how much like the space, the what is the RG, what will be the RG, or how much compaction the 1,000 base pair will have. So we use this biological information of platinums to set like radius of the cylinder.
Okay. So I'm just sort of quickly looking through the questions to ask, which to find out which is the one that I would have asked. Yeah, I had some questions about comparison of the confined RG to the unconfined RG.
Yeah.
And how he set that.
Yes, so we cannot calculate the like RG for in the presence of cylindrical confinement. The more relevant quantity is the RG along the short axis and RG along the long axis. But we can see from the number density of monomers that the polymer is constrained in this particular region, like 80 to 20. And along the short axis we see that most of the monomers are found near 6A, because at the 7 because at this particular point there are no monomers, right?
yeah, but how would you compare the extent? You won't take the maximum extent, right? So the question, his question, Gautam's question is, what is the quantity you would use from this data to compare RGs? You're talking about the maximum extent here.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to his question, is different. So if you had to had an estimate of the extent, how would you do it? You're not, are you going to use RG? Does it give you
That
the maximum
okay.
extent?
Okay, so that we can calculate from the moment of inertia along moment of inertia tensor along the length of the cylinder and as well as in the radial direction. So that will give an estimate of RG in the length and
From the data, can you pull out a number? You
okay.
have the data in front of you.
Yeah, so this the length is approximately 80 to 20, which is approximately 60. So the extent of the polymer in the linear direction is approximately 60. And
You
In
want
the
to compare the maximum extent with an average size. RG gives a measure of the average size. And you're comparing an average radius with the maximum extent. Is that a relevant comparison?
I'll tell you where the question is coming from. The question is coming from something that you yourself said. If you lyse the bacterium, then you see that the chromosome expands to a much larger region. So presumably once it expands, you're seeing the natural RG, the unconfined RG, and you should compare that to the confinement radius, which is what you're squishing it in. Are you getting that set of dimensions right? If you sort of just imagine expanding it out. Of course, expanding it out could also mean that you break many of those crosslinks, etc. It's not the same problem anymore. But even if you assume that you retain those crosslinks and expanded it, what would be the expansion factor, roughly speaking, the ratio of the unconfined to the confined?
how much it is expanded.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So from the left figure, can you comment about an average size? You're always talking about the maximum extent. How would you estimate, even hand wavingly, an average size from the data that you have on your left?
Yeah, so
Left.
that will be the average like standard deviation of this plot will be the like average.
An estimate, pull out a number. From
So
my
this is approximately 40 and this is approximately 60, 65 or 70. 70 minus 40, this is approximately 30, 30A.
But you have smaller number of crosslinks actually.
Yes,
So
yes,
compare that with the RG and remember that the number of crosslinks are different.
yes.
Well,
In the previous
to
case,
now
we
give a
have,
number, yeah.
yeah, so in the previous case, we have approximately 80, 60 crosslinks, but in this case, we have only 33 crosslinks. Yeah, so we cannot compare from here because these two cases are not similar.
Okay, I have, I think, no real questions beyond that. And we can open it up to questions from the audience and from all of the other committee members.
Yeah, sure. Before I did that, I just wanted Tejal to just have two quick questions, and you can be brief. I mean, one is if, for someone like you're talking to a cosmologist, right? If you wanted to tell me about how you place your work and what's the context, and what do you think, someone asked you, what was the import of your entire thesis work, what would
Okay.
you say? I mean, just few lines.
Okay, so the first thing we observe is that the cross links or the DNA binding proteins along the polymer helps in the organization of the polymer or the chromosome. Like if we bind different segments by the DNA binding proteins, that will lead to the organization of the polymer. Next case, we find that the position or location of these particular DNA binding proteins are not random, but there are very specific position where the DNA binding proteins attach, and only that can give rise to a non-trivial and a non-trivial organization of the polymer, which is also experimentally found.
Okay. And also, so I think this was answered in the question answer that was going on, but I wanted to know what was basically, what kind of numerical work did you do in terms of what class of numerical codes did you use? And
So I did Monte Carlo simulations.
so you're populating box under
Yes,
some constraint conditions, right? So
yes,
constraints given by this
yes.
is.
The
So there's no
constraints.
dynamics involved, right? I mean,
No,
so
there
which I
is no
understood,
dynamic.
no molecular dynamics. So
No molecular. So it's like just generating different equilibrium configurations of the polymer. So we did
okay.
not take any active effect on non-equilibrium system. It's just equilibrium statistics.
So you're trying to parameterize what you see in experiments in terms of a simple model. I mean, that's
Yes,
the.
yes, yes.
Okay, good. So sorry, I kept the others waiting, but it's open to the audience for questions. Questions, anyone? Are there any questions?
It is silent. Everybody's silent.
Yeah, and I mean, I hope everyone is not muted or something. You can raise your hand button if you want to ask a question. I see a lot of experts in the field. I think a couple of your collaborators are also here, right? So
Farhat, yeah.
Farhat, yes, and Vijay is there. No one has any
Vijay,
tough questions for Tejal?
So myself,
Okay,
Vijay joined a little late because we had RAC going on. So
Yeah, like we joined pretty
ask
late. Like
question after joining a bit late, I feel.
good. Okay, so if there are no further
okay.
questions, yeah,
So
okay.
yeah,
Farhat, yes.
yeah, I can ask a few questions. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with your work, so I'm not really that. But maybe you can comment on when you were looking at confinement. You looked at a 1:7 ratio for the cylinder. Did you experiment with any other aspect ratios?
No, I don't. I didn't do that.
What do you think would be the effect if you were to do that? Do you have any intuition or?
Yes, so if we increase the like aspect ratio of the cylinder, then of course the polymer will get more expanded, because we do see that the cylindrical confinement is helping the polymer to get compacted. But if we cylindrical confinement, then the polymer will get more collapsed. Um, yes, and that may also, yeah, so that will also slow down the dynamics of the polymer, because the relaxation time will increase, and if the degree of confinement is very, very large.
Degree of confinement is large. I mean, are you confining it more or you are
More.
releasing it more?
More, like I am confining it more. So in that sense, the relaxation time will increase.
There's one more point. I don't know why you are not mentioning it. The ratio is 1:7 for the polymer, but once you increase the crosslinks, once you put in the crosslinks, it collapses to 1:5. So there's a lot of free space, so which is closer to what is seen in experiments, right? So even if you use a much longer cylinder, because by the virtue of the crosslinks, it is coming back to the closer
Yes,
to the experimental
yes,
size, and this
but
is a very
but
important thing, but you're not
sep-
missing. Yeah.
along the radial of axis of the cylinder, the crosslinks are not helping the polymer to get compacted. So I meant like if we increase the radius of the cylinder, then
Okay.
yeah, so it will get expanded in the radial direction.
Yeah, but
Along
along
the
the
length,
longitudinal, it
I
won't
don't
make
want.
any difference. It
Yes,
won't make any
along.
difference because
Yes,
it will always maintain this 1:4, 1:5 ratio.
Yes. So yeah, along the length, I don't expect the polymer Rg to change, but along the short axis, if we increase the cylinder's radius, I would expect that it will like expand.
Okay, I'm just curious, how long does it take to make one of the independent runs on your computers? Because if it's
So
Markov chain, Monte
for
Carlo, it shouldn't be. Hmm?
So we have a 4,000 monomer chain, right? And in the cylindrical confinement, and to get this the quality of average data, I 2 crores or more than that, which took approximately 7 to 8 days for one run.
Okay, no, this is curiosity. Okay, great. Are there any further questions from anyone? Okay, if not, I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Tejal Agarwal, because Gautam has just messaged me saying, uh, he is through with the examination. And so, congratulations, Tejal.
Congratulations, Tejas.
Yes, congratulations from me.
Congratulations, Tejal.
Many
Yeah,
congratulations, Teja.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Congratulations, Tejal.
Thank you, sir.
It was a usual hall would have.
Yeah, so I'm trying to simulate that as much as possible.
Yeah, some coffee and cake and so on. would have
Yeah,
been in order.
we should have some fireworks on Zoom.
Missed you, Gautam. Heavily.
I do have the
Yeah.
coffee, but no cake here.
Yeah, I'm sorry I
And
couldn't be there in
to
person.
go for a lunch, which will have to wait till
Yeah.
you
Yes.
visit ISER Pune, and we don't know when that will be.
Absolutely. Nice to see all of you. And
Yeah, thanks, Gautam, and yeah, hope to
let's all
see you.
take care and
I
not fall
hope your
ill.
models bode well for Pune. I keep looking for what he is saying.
Yes, it's hard to say at the moment. Anyway, all of you please stay well, and
Yeah.
do as much distancing as is appropriate and you can manage.
Thanks.
Sure. And we will look forward to having you in ISER Pune, and it would be very lucky if both Tejal and you land up at the same time, but I think that is unlikely.
Ah,
So,
so Tejal, what are your plans?
So applied for the teaching positions in University of Delhi, for which interviews were to like happen in April or so, but because of COVID, it just postponed it. I'm just waiting
see.
for that. Yeah.
Great. And you also applying for postdoctoral positions, or you just want to settle into some job?
Yeah, so I just don't want to go out of India.
Oh,
So
okay.
I will like look for the postdoc positions here in India if it is possible.
Okay. Excellent. All the best.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
So thanks, Gautam, again. And
Not at all.
thanks. And by the way,
Sure.
congratulations to Apratim too.
Yes,
You know.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Every student produced is a labor of love. So, yeah.
Congratulations, Apratim.
And a huge credit goes to Farhat actually, because I had in 2015, I had no plans to, or I had no clue about biology. So Farhat and Manjunath just one day walked into my room and said, why don't you look at this problem on DNA? I said, DNA, I mean, I left biology after class 10. What are you talking about? Somehow he convinced me, and somehow Tejal got convinced to play around with so-called DNA for 1 year. I thought I mean, she was doing an PhD first year. So I thought, okay, let's take a risk. And then I realized that we were having fun. And so thanks to Farhat for introducing me to the problem. I actually plan to work on in this area for some time. So a huge amount of credit goes to Farhat and Manjunath for training me as well.
Yeah, it was fun. And like, I mean, basically, Manjunath was the one who came up with the problem, and I bounced ideas with him for a while. And then I was like, who else could work? Who else could be appropriate? And then, like, I looked at, okay, DNA as a polymer, the only polymer person I know is Apratim. Let's bounce it off him. And well, yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, it took some time for him to convince me that I should get into it, because I didn't know any of the terminology. I'm still learning, I think. And
Yeah, I think it's like some time and several beers, and yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and as with Gautam, open invitation to all of you.
Thank you so much.
Not in Pune, to please visit us. And
Absolutely.
Farhat, love to meet you. And
Likewise.
yeah, great. Thank you very much.
All right.
everyone.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
yeah, but now what do we do with the recording?
Keep it on your desk, I guess. Okay.
I have to stop. I will figure out with somebody.
Bye, Tejal. All the best.
Bye, Tejo. Bye.
Yeah, congratulations,
Everyone.
Tejal, by the way.
Congrats.
Yeah, bye. Already left. Yeah. Okay, bye everybody. Thanks. So stop recording. And cloud recording is ready.